This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Baruchim haboim, agutavach. Welcome everyone to a special event this evening in honor of the Sefer, the Concealed and the Revealed. The Sefer published by ArtScroll on Purim. I want to thank the hosts of tonight's event, Chazak, Rav Ilan Meirav, Rav Yaniv Meirav. I want to thank Rabbi Aboff for organizing tonight's event in honor of the new Sefer. Whatever you could do to support Chazak, especially in their efforts of enrolling public school students in yeshivos, Tavai Aleichem Bracha, may you be blessed min hashamayim. And tonight's Shiur is sponsored by Chickens for Shabbos, which is a wondrous organization that feeds Klal Yisrael's neediest, the families of Agunos, Gerushos, Melamdim. Go to the Yad Eliezer site, hit the icon for Agunos, Gerushos, Melamdim, and you can have a zechus to support those in Klal Yisrael who need it the most. You could support families of Rabbeim. Without our Rabbeim, we would not have the next generation. So, tonight's event is in honor of the new Sefer, the Concealed and the Revealed. Actually, last year the Sefer was published, so this year we are in year 2 of the Concealed and the Revealed. And there's a special promo code for this evening. The promo code is REVEALED. Okay, that's not too difficult. Capital R, capital E, capital V, capital E, capital A, capital L, capital E, capital D. Revealed, and you could get this book from ArtScroll for 15% off. Go to artscroll.com. Put in promo code REVEALED and you can get this Sefer for 15% off. Now, while we're at it, even though we're not, tonight's Shiur is not dedicated to the Sefer Maggid HaRakia on Purim. This Sefer is also available on our site, rabbidg.com. You see behind me the name of the site, rabbidg.com, and you could order the Sefer with free shipping. Go to rabbidg.com and order the Sefer Maggid HaRakia on Purim. Now, the last we hear of Achashverosh, he's taxing the people. Vayosem hamelach Achashverosh mas al ha'aretz v'yayam. And you say, oh, I know where he's going. That's his favorite Dvar Torah. No, I have something new to tell you. Vayosem hamelach Achashverosh mas al ha'aretz. Achashverosh taxes the people. And we think that's the end of the story. However, comes Rama Mifano. The Rama Mifano was one of the earliest Mekubalim. He was a student of Rabbi Yisrael Saruk. Rabbi Yisrael Saruk was a student of the Arizal. I had the zechus to be at the monument of the Rama Mifano in Mantua, in Italy. And the Rama Mifano was one of the most eminent all-time Mekubalim. And he reveals to us that this is not the end of Achashverosh's story. In the Psikta Rabasi, and what I'm here tonight to tell you, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Vashti's tale, and I'm going to tell you the true tale of Vashti's tale. Because whatever you heard until now, they didn't want to tell you the real story. So the Psikta Rabasi says, there was a Jewish farmer who fell on hard times, and he had a deer cow, and he had to sell his cow, the cow that he used to pull his plow, and the animal was purchased by a non-Jew, and the non-Jew immediately put the cow to work. And the cow worked throughout the week, and he worked well, and that is until Shabbos came. Come Shabbos, the cow crouches down under the yoke, and he will not move. He will not pull the plow. The new owner bangs the cow, whips the cow, smacks the cow. The cow won't budge. His efforts are to no avail. So the farmer went to the Jew and he said, what kind of bad lemon did you sell me? This is a terrible cow. This cow doesn't want to work on Shabbos. I could beat it, I could hit it, it won't budge. I want my money back. I want a 100% refund. Now the seller knew there was nothing wrong with the cow. It's just the cow had become accustomed to resting on the Shabbos. So the previous owner says to the current owner, I need to have a word with my cow. What? You need to have a word with the cow? Now you're talking to the cow. First you sell me a lemon of a cow, and now you're going to talk to the cow. Sir, just let me have a word with my cow, okay? So they begin a conversation, the owner and the cow. And the owner says to the cow, "Dear cow, until now I owned you, and I was a Jew, and therefore you were not allowed to work on Shabbos. But I fell on hard times, and I had to sell you, and do me a favor, you need to work now. There's nothing wrong with working because you're owned by a Gentile, and that will be the right thing to do." So immediately the cow gets up on all four and he starts working for the owner. And the non-Jew was astounded. He's shocked. He had banged the cow, beaten the cow, smacked the cow. The cow wouldn't budge. And now he has a conversation with his cow, and the cow is moving. The cow is working. He says, "What kind of crazy cow did you give me? Is this cow under a spell or something?" And the owner said, "No, let me explain to you what happened." And he told him the whole story. And the owner, the current owner of the cow, was so moved that his cow didn't want to work on Shabbos. And a cow that can't talk and can't speak and doesn't really have any intellect, he's able to recognize the Creator and observe a day of rest. Then a human being with superior intelligence who could reason and think, created in the image of Hashem, how could a human being not fulfill the will of God? The farmer was so deeply moved, he ran away and he converted to Judaism. Yup, that is the kiruv of the cow. You never know. You see that a cow could be mekarev someone. We're going to come back to that because that might be a new kiruv technique. Kiruv through the cow kiruv. Okay, bear that in mind for a moment. Comes Ramami Fano, and he says, "I'm going to be megala the true identity of the cow. I'm going to reveal why the cow didn't want to work on Shabbos." Gemara tells us that Vashti used to make Jewish women, she would strip them of their clothing and she would force them to work on Shabbos. Says Ramami Pano, the punishment to Vashti is that Vashti reincarnated as the cow who wouldn't work on Shabbos. Vashti made Jewish women work on Shabbos. Vashti had to come back to this world as a cow who didn't work on Shabbos. Now, this was so meaningful to me, and this was so moving to me, and I'll tell you why. You know, we all know from the Gemara Masechta Megillah that when Achashverosh called and summoned Vashti to come display and parade herself, Vashti refused. And the Gemara says, why did Vashti refuse? One opinion is she became a Metzaira, a leaper. And another opinion is, no, she didn't become a leaper. Instead, she grew a tail, a zanav. I mean, that's got to be everyone's favorite midrashic and agadic teaching, that Vashti grew a tail. We could just picture this tail coming out of Vashti, this long tail, swatting flies. However, Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz in the Yaros Devash interprets this teaching of the Gemara allegorically. Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz interprets, based on the Medrash, that there's a machlokes. How did God create Chava? Did God split Adam in half? Or did God take out a rib and create Chava? The Manda Omer that says that Hashem took out a rib and created Chava, the language the Gemara utilizes is he created Chava zonav, a tail. And Chazal even say, since the woman was created from the tail, the rib, which is a private part of the body, therefore it is within the woman, the nature of a woman to be modest. That modesty is within a woman's nature. A woman should be modest because that's where she was created from. She was created from Zanav. Well, says Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz then, that when Chazal say that Vashti grew a tail, it doesn't literally mean that Vashti grew a tail. I think it means she popped the tail out. No, when Chazal say that Vashti grew a tail, I mean uncharacteristically Hashem engendered within Vashti the nature to be modest. She was usually a very promiscuous aggressive woman. And now for a change, Hashem engendered within her the midah of modesty, and that's why she didn't want to come out. So when I heard Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz's interpretation of this Gemara, this was really a bubble burster to me. I mean, I grew up thinking that Vashti really grew a tail, and now you're telling me Vashti didn't grow a tail? I mean, I didn't know what to do with this. I couldn't sleep at night. I was tossing and turning. How could it be that Vashti didn't grow a tail? But then when I heard from the Ramah Mipano, the story that Vashti reincarnated as a cow, Baruch Hashem, in the end of the story, Vashti, in fact, grew a tail. Maybe a different tail than you thought, but now Vashti became a cow, so Vashti in the end really had a tail. And I'm going to tell you a big chiddush. You know what you call this? This is called the true tale of Vashti's tail. I thought you would like that. But now that we learned what happened with Vashti, let's study what happened with Rabbi Yochanan. What happened, with Achashverosh? What happened at the end of the day to Achashverosh? The Psikta continues. The Psikta says that this Gentile who ran away and converted, he was none other than Rabbi Yochanan ben Tairasa. Rabbi Yochanan, the son of the cow. He was inspired by a cow to convert. He said if a cow understands it has to listen to the mandate of Hashem, all the more so a human being has to recognize his creator. So ultimately, this convert became the great Tana Rabbi Yochanan ben Tairasa, and until this day, says the Psikta, we say over Divrei Torah from his name. By the way, the Psikta says that from here we learn the power of a cow. Even a cow could influence someone to do tshuva. Says the Psikta, if a cow could cause someone to come tachas kanfei hashchina, then don't be surprised that a cow could be mataher someone who's tamei. How so? It says zois chukas haTorah, that through the mitzvah paraduma one becomes pure. So the source that a paraduma could be mataher is understood in light of the story of the cow that inspired Rabbi Yochanan ben Tairasa to convert. Now, Rabbi, so we understand, says Rav Moshe Wolfson, why Parshas Para comes right after Purim. Because through the story of Purim, we're ready for this? Who was Rabbi Yochanan ben Tairasa? Says Ramah Mipano, Rabbi Yochanan ben Tairasa was the Gilgal of none other than Achashverosh. That while Vashti was given her tikkun by reincarnating as a cow, Achashverosh also had a tikkun, namely he converted. Ultimately his soul was the soul of this Gentile inspired by the Shmiras Shabbos of the cow. And from there we learn the power of Paraduma. Now we understand, says Rav Moshe Wolfson, why Parshas Para comes in the immediate aftermath of Purim, because Achashverosh was inspired to do tshuva and become Rabbi Yochanan ben Tairasa from the model of a cow. So too after Purim we also read about the purification of the Para Aduma. In fact, Rav Moshe Wolfson incredibly points out that the gematria of Zois Chukas, as in Zois Chukas HaTorah, is 916, equal to the gematria of Hamelech Achashverosh. The gematria of Hamelech Achashverosh is Zois Chukas 916. So when I heard this great teaching of Ramah Mipano, aside from helping me understand the true tale of Vashti's tale, but I decided if Achashverosh ultimately became the Tana, Rabbi Yochanan ben Tairasa, I bet it would be very interesting to study the various teachings of Rabbi Yochanan ben Tairasa in Shas and see if they're at all relevant to the life of Achashverosh. And sure enough, if you look at Masechta Yuma, on Daf Tes, And I found there are only 3 teachings of Rabbi Yochanan ben Terasa in the Torah Sheba'al Peh. The first one in Masechta Yuma Daf Tes. Rabbi Yochanan ben Terasa explains why Mishkan Shiloi was destroyed. That Klal Yisrael committed 2 sins. Number 1, they were over on Gilui Arayos, and number 2, they were over on Bizayon Kachim. So number 1, they committed adultery, immorality, and number 2, Bizayon Kachim, they debased sacred items. Whoa! I realized that this is exactly parallel to the sins of Achashverosh. What were the sins of Achashverosh? First of all, at his party, Achashverosh acted in a very lewd manner, in a very unbecoming manner. He ordered that Vashti appear before him and his officers in a very indecent situation. So Achashverosh had a party which was centered around Giloi Arayos. Furthermore, at Achashverosh's party, what took place at Achashverosh's party? Bizayon Kodshim. He disgraced the vessels of the Beis Hamikdash. He made use of the vessels, like we read in the Megillah. V'chelim mikelim shainim. So Achashverosh was guilty of Gilui Arayos. He was guilty of Bizayon Kodshim. Hashem gives him a tikkun. He's neskalgal as the Gentile who owned the cow, who was Vashti. He's inspired by the cow Shmir Shabbos. He converts, he becomes Rabbi Yochanan ben Terasa, and in order to rectify Gilui Arayos and Bizayon Kodshim, he teaches in Yuma and Daf Tes why was Mishkan Shiloi destroyed? Because of Gilui Arayos and Bizayon Kodshim. Here's another time that Rabbi Yochanan ben Terasa appears in Torah Sheba'al Peh. This is the Medrash on Eicha, Parak Beis, Pasuk Daled. It's also Yushalmi and Tainis Daf Chav Daled. Rabbi Akiva believed that Bar Kochva was Mashiach. When Rabbi Akiva would see Bar Kochva, he would say, Hainu Malka Mashiach, this is the King Messiah. Rabbi Yochanan ben Terasa rebuked Rabbi Akiva. He said, Akiva, Yalu asavim b'chayecha v'adayin eino ba. Grass could grow in your palate before Mashiach comes. In other words, you got the wrong Mashiach. Bar Kochva is not Mashiach. Interesting that the convert, Rabbi Yochanan ben Terasa, was the one who taught the awesome Rabbi Akiva that Bar Kochva was not Mashiach. Let's explain this in the context that we're learning. Another sin of Achashverosh is that he held a party to celebrate what he thought was the eternal ruin and destruction of the temple. The Navi Yirmiyah promised that the temple would be rebuilt after 70 years. Achashverosh made a calculation, and he determined, according to his calculation, the 70 years were up. And therefore Achashverosh celebrated a party that the temple will never be rebuilt. Mashiach would never come. The Gemara Megillah asks the stira. On one place it says, Bayamim haheim kishavas hamelech Achashverosh. And then that implies that this was the beginning of the reign of Achashverosh. And shortly after it says, Bishna shalosh malcha, on the 3rd year of his reign. So was this in the beginning of his reign, or was this in the 3rd year of his reign? And the Gemara says, Kisheves hamelech Achashverosh. That means when Kishenes Yashva Daitoi, when his mind was put to ease, when he was settled, when he was relaxed. When was he relaxed? When, according to his calculation, the 70 years were up, and still the Geula did not come. And Achashverosh said, Hashta vadai suloi mifraki. Now for sure they won't be redeemed. So Achashverosh's second sin was he said Mashiach will not come. So in order to rectify that, he has to, so to speak, be the one to tell Rabbi Akiva that the false Mashiach is not a Mashiach. Rabbi Akiva thought Bar Kochva was Mashiach. So we needed Achashverosh. We needed Rabbi Yochanan ben Terasa, who mistakenly thought that the Geula would not come when it would. So to rectify that, he has to tell someone who thinks that a fake Goyal is a Goyal, that it's not the real Geula. To rectify saying the true geula wasn't going to happen, he rectifies that by saying the false redemption is not a legitimate redemption. So that is the second tikkun of Achashverosh. And finally, I would suggest one more tikkun that Achashverosh went through. This is found in Shmos Rabbah, Parsha Mem Ois Aleph. In Shmos Rabbah we read, Amru Rabbanon, Rabbi Yochanan ben Terasa, Pamachas ba lifnei Rabbi Akiva. One time I came before Rabbi Akiva, Amar Lai, I said to him, Amoidu kra b'Torah, go, stand up and read the Torah. Amar Lahem, Rabbi Akiva said, Lo yavarti ala Parsha. I did not review the Parsha v'shibchu chachamim. The rabbis praised him. Perhaps this is another way that Achashverosh gets a tikkun. Here's another thing we know about Achashverosh. The guy's a flip-flop. The Gemara says he's a melech hafach v'chan. He's fickle. Rashi says that means he's choizer b'diburai. He's unclear, he's unprepared, he's unrehearsed. He vacillates back and forth because he doesn't have clarity of the matter. The Medrash expounds upon this idea that one who is supposed to give a shiur, a lecture, cannot rely on the fact that he knows the material. No, he must review the material many, many times before he presents it to others. The Gemara says this is learnt out from the Rebbeinu Shalom himself, that before HaKadosh Baruch Hu taught the Torah to Klal Yisrael, the pasuk says, "Az ra vayisapra hechina v'gam chakara, hechina vayisapra ra v'chakara." 4 times, Kiviyachal HaKadosh Baruch Hu reviews the material 4 times before he teaches it to the Jewish people. So it comes out that ultimately, not only did Vashti receive her tikkun by turning into a cow that has to keep the Shabbos, but even Achashverosh gets a tikkun. Achashverosh teaches in Yuma Daf Tes, Rabbi Yochanan ben Terasa, that Shiloi was destroyed because of Bizaya and Kodshim, and because of Gilui Arayos. Furthermore, Rabbi Yochanan ben Terasa teaches in the Medrash that he's the one to tell Rabbi Akiva that grass will grow in your palate before the Mashiach comes. And even further, Achashverosh needs even more tikkun. Why does he need more tikkun? Because he's fickle, he's a hafachpach. He can't make up his mind. So he's the one who teaches the world that if you want to teach Torah, you need to clarify it, you need to be clear, you need to say it clearly, you need to rehearse it, you need to prepare it. This all teaches us the following vital lesson, that ultimately, kilo yidach mimenu nidach, ultimately, everyone is given a tikkun. Even Achashverosh, even Vashti, and this of course is the true tale of Vashti's tale. So again, this year is sponsored and dedicated by Chickens for Shabbos. You could go to the Yad Eliezer site and hit the icon for Agunos Grushos Melamdim, and you could help those who need it most, and that's a chus Hashem should help your family. They should always have Shefa, Bracha, V'Hatzlacha. In the second segment of this year, dedicated to the Sefer, the Concealed and the Revealed, and as we mentioned, you could get it at the ArtScroll site, artscroll.com. Use the promo code REVEALED, capital REVEALED, and you could get 15% off. In the second segment, I would like to talk about possibly the most famous expression in Megillas Esther, and that is the expression V'nahapoichu, and it was turned around. And who was turned around? What? What's the who? What was turned around? There's another question you could ask. The Gemara says on the pasuk in Yeshaya, V'haya Lashem Lashem, that God made a name for himself. Zu Mikra Megillah. This is the reading of the Megillah. That through the reading of the Megillah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a name for himself, which is very unusual. This would be the last book that you would think Hashem made a name for himself with. After all, Hashem's name is not found in the Megillah. So, this is a wondrous book. It's a book about Hashgacha Pratis, but it ain't a book to say that Hashem made a name for himself with. because Hashem's name is not even found in the Megillah. So I want to share with you a riddle. The Ben Ish Chai has a sefer of riddles. It's called Oitz Rois Chayim Materes Teferes Plois Rabbis Ois Kufches. And he said the following riddle. He says that Haman noted that his ancestor took away from Klal Yisrael 3. He left them with 4. He measured himself up. He found that he was equal. So therefore he was empowered and he attacked. What does it mean that his ancestor took away 3? What does it mean he left him with 4? And in what way is he equal? Says the Ben Ish Chai, God's name is Yud Kei Vav Kei. His throne is whole, Kisei Kaf Samach Aleph. But Amalek comes and Asher and renders God's name missing. Yud Kei, Ka, case, not Kisei. If you take case and Ka, you get 95. Haman is Gematria 95. After Amalek takes away the Vav Kei and the Aleph, we're left with case Ka, that's 95, that's Haman. Haman said that I could take on, and therefore Haman was empowered to attack. However, there's an incredible remez that even though Haman took away 3, even though Amalek took away 3, if you add to case Ka, Milchama Lashem, so case Ka is 95, Milchama Lashem 179, 179 and 95 equals 274, Mordechai, indicating, yes, Haman is equal to case Ka, but Mordechai wages war against Haman, and therefore Milchama Lashem, case Ka, Mordechai is able to overpower Haman, because Mordechai and case Ka equals Milchama Lashem. Excuse me, Milchama Lashem and case Ka equals Mordechai. Now, the Marsha says that now we understand that Amalek took away 3. He took away the letters Vav and He, and he took away the Aleph of case, Kisei. This is the meaning of the pasuk in Tehillim. Ki vachar Hashem b'Tzion, when Mashiach comes and God will select Tzion, Iva, the letters Aleph, Vav and He, Lemoishavlai, will be restored. Aleph will be restored to case, and Vav K will be restored to Yod K. That's the meaning. Ki bachar Hashem b'Tzion, Iva Lemoishavlai. The Shlah HaKadosh similarly says, Bayoim Hahu Yiyah Hashem Echad Ushma Echad. That just like La'asad Lavai, Hashem will restore the Iva, Aleph of Hey, Bayoim Ha-Hu, on the day of Hu, Hey Vav Aleph, the Hey and the Vav will be returned to, Hashem's name, and the Aleph will be returned to case, to Kisei. Comes the Satmar Rebbe, and I've seen that this is quoted in the name of Ramera Pramar Shlan, as well as Ramosha Shapiro brings this from Reb Chaim Vital, that this is the secret of the pasuk V'nahapoich Hu. You know what was turned around? Hu was turned around. The letter of Hu will be rearranged. The Aleph will go back to case, and the Vav and the Hey will go back to Yud Kei. When the letters are arranged as Hu, so then they can't be dealt with. Not only did Amalek take away the Aleph, the Vav and the Hey, but they switched it around to Hey Vav Aleph. So now, not only are the letters taken out of Hashem's name, they're not even in the right order. But with the victory of Purim, V'nahapoich Hu will be restored. Who will be turned around? First will come the Aleph. Now the Aleph is in position to go back to the case. And the Hey and the Vav will be turned around to Vav and Hey to be restored to Hashem's name, Yud K plus the Vav K. So what Amalek did was not only did they take away Iva, they flipped it to Hu. So the miracle of Purim is V'nahapoich Hu. Hu will be turned from Hey Vav Aleph to Aleph Vav Hey. And then it will be able to be turned back and returned properly the Aleph to the Case and the Vav K to the Yud K. In fact, the Sefer Gedulas Mordechai explains that V'nahapoich hu asher yishlatu ha-Yehudim, he cites the Arizal, that the time of the Churban Beis HaMikdash, we lost one of Hashem's name, Aleph Hey Vav Yud, alluded to in Hu Asher Yishlatu Ha-Yehudim, alluded to in V'nahapoich Hu Asher Yishlatu. V'nahapoich Hu Asher Yishlatu is Vav Hey Aleph Yud. That is the 4-letter name of Hashem that went missing. The Aleph was taken out of Case. The Vav K was taken out of Yud K. And the extra Yud was taken out of the word Yerushalayim. Throughout Tanakh, Yerushalayim is spelled Chasar. And these 4 letters make up a name of Hashem that was lost in the time of the Churban and through the efforts of Haman. Mavra Abaisai, now we perhaps could understand why Chazal tell us that through the Megillah, Hashem made a name for himself. But we asked, but Hashem's name is not found in the Megillah. Yes, B'nahapoichu, that through the destruction of Amalek, we're able to release the Hu, the Aleph, the Vav, and the Hey. Now when Amalek took it and hijacked it and kidnapped it, he flipped it around. He made it Hu, so that if we ever got it back, the Hey and the Vav are not in the right position to fit back into Hashem's name. The Aleph is out of order. It should have been Eva. They made it Hu. The miracle of Purim says, V'nahapoichu. We flip around the letters so that we could restore the Vav and the Hey to Hashem's name. This is a way with which Hashem made a name for himself through Megillas Esther. Through the miracle of Purim, Hashem made a great name for himself. V'haya l'Hashem l'Hashem zu mikra Megillah. So we learned this evening, we learned the true tale of Vashti's tale. We learned how ultimately Achashverosh gets tikkun. We learned that all the statements of Rabbi Yochanan and Tairasai and Tar Shabal Peh were to rectify precisely the failings and the shortcomings of Achashverosh. And we learned the mystical meaning of V'nahapoichu, where we flip around Eva. We were able to take the letters Hey Vav Aleph and create Eva, putting the Aleph back in the Case, putting the Vav and the Hey back in the Yud K. So, I thank Chazak for hosting tonight's event, Rabbi Ilan Meirav, Rabbi Yaniv Meirav, Rabbi Aboth, for hosting this event in honor of the Sefer, the Concealed and the Revealed. I thank Chickens for Shabbos for dedicating tonight's Shiur. Please go to the Yad Eliezer site and hit the icon for Agunos Grushas Malamdim, and you could support and be Zoiche to be Mekayim, Tzedakah, Chesed, Lahachiyos Leiv Nitkoyim, Lahachiyos Leiv Nishbarim, and please go to theartscroll.com. You could order the Sefer, 15% off, promo code REVEALED, and Be'ezus Hashem, the Sefer will really enhance your enjoyment of Purim. Haba Aleinu L'Toiva, Afreilach in Purim.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.